Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon to you. You're live here on BBC with me, Akosia Atobra Kisipra. Over the last month, the world has witnessed massive distraction from the reignited long-standing war between Israel and Palestine. And among the people who have been most affected are children from both countries. We have reports from Gaza stating that over 5,500 Palestinian children have been killed. Another 700,000 children cannot access safe water, and more than 20,000 children have been badly injured in the attacks. Joining me in the studio to discuss the impact of these wars on children in Gaza is Miss Whitney Ryan. She is a child psychologist both at heart and professionally, with over 10 years of experience working with oppressed children, those affected by abuse, and children finding themselves in war-torn countries. You're welcome, Miss Whitney, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Okay, so with your expertise and research, what would you say have been some of the detrimental effects that these wars and conflicts have had on the educational, mental, physical, and social development of children in Gaza? I mean, seeing that they have been the most affected faction in all of this.
Right now, about 449 million children live in these conflict zones, and about 200 million of them fail to reach their full development potential due to poverty, inadequate health care, poor nutrition, and within the Gaza Strip alone, an average of 420 children suffer injury and death daily. So when we talk about the psychological ramifications, we're anticipating extremely high rates of depression and anxiety among these children. And living in this perpetual state of fear from the conflict leads them to develop severe anxiety disorders, and they live in what we call a constant state of toxic stress. So because these children are exposed to such severe violence and death at a young age, they tend to become emotionally withdrawn and desensitized, and this leads them to the likelihood of then imitating that aggressive behavior they see, which hurts their ability to form healthy relationships in the long run. They become isolated and introverted, and they struggle to cope with the memories of war and trauma. Psychological studies suggest that the children who are raised in conflict zones actually may exhibit increased aggression as they grow older, because these environments lack sufficient outlets for them to release up this pent-up energy, such as play, sports, artistic activities, which are the typical day-to-day things they do in educational institutions. Of which about 300 have been destroyed in Gaza alone. So these children have nowhere to go for their educational needs, which is, as we know, a right for all people. And as we can see, the cumulative effect of conflict on the mental and emotional well-being of children is profound and necessitates urgent attention and intervention.
Well, thank you so much for your contribution. We're also connected to Mr. Tianji Zhang. He is a child protection officer from UNICEF who is currently stationed at the state of Palestine. Thank you for connecting, Mr. Tianji.
Thank you for having me, Sua. This is Tianji Zhang from UNICEF Palestine Country Office.
Could you tell us some findings from this world emergency? How many schools, hospitals, and homes have been destroyed? And are there any plans to rebuild when all of this dies down? And what has been done so far to mitigate the torture that these children have had to endure in this period?
According to the report from local media, there are over 2,000 families was destroyed, and family housing units also destroyed. Apart from that, there are over 40 hospitals destroyed. And then 50% of local groundwater cannot be accessible. So UNICEF, what we have done is like three parts. First part is the humanitarian fundraising to assist these children in Gaza. Second one is advocacy to propagate this kind of serious problem to the world globally, and we can connect more helpful stakeholders help us to work together. And third one is child protection. So for the first one, for the fundraising, now we already transfer over $9 million to the Gaza regions for the humanitarian assistance. Apart from that, we also coordinate with this other country office, like around Asia and Pacific regions and European regions. We coordinate with them and find a more R, which is regional, which is regular resources, is kind of money type in the UNICEF. We use this money to put in, to transfer it into local Gaza account. And second one is we also did a lot of work in the advocacy. Most of our colleagues trying to propagate and send this kind of information and write a report. For example, social media like in the LinkedIn, we connect more people in the professional level or in the local level. We get more programmatic ideas and more useful funding resources. We're also trying to expand our fundraising currencies. For example, we're trying to use the blockchain fundraising ways to get more different money types. So for the third one is the child protection. We really focus on the children in distress, especially in the family circumstances. For example, we focus on the children who are suffer from serious trauma during this war. So we launched different local seminars and workshops to organize these children in distress and their family to tell their family and parents how to tell the children about this war and how to avoid some of this unnecessary information from the media. So that could be one of the way to protect the children. Also, we engage a lot of social workers in the local communities to help the children to get more resources, especially like the water and hygiene and also for example like nutrition. So these issues can be solved by these local social workers and local communities. So I think that having said all of this, that's what we have done so far. So as UNICEF officer, we will donate all of our time and energy to work on these emergency issues in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Tanji. Now moving on to Mr. Santiago Riley, who is also joining us online. He is a well-recognized children's rights activist, PRO of CARE International, one of the oldest humanitarian aid organizations.
All right, can you hear me, Akoso? I hope you guys can there in the studio. Whitney, thank you guys for having us.
Now, tell us, Mr. Santiago, as a children's rights activist, what do you have to say about this? What's your take on this?
I'm just a few miles south here of Al Shifa Hospital, which is kind of the central focus point of all the news today. Hopefully with this coming ceasefire in the next few days, we can start engaging a lot more with the civilians and the terrible issues going on here. In the past 46 days, there's been over 5,300 children killed here in Gaza. As child rights activists, this is just terrible to hear. As anyone else in the world, you viewers back home, this is just awful news, and we need to do everything we can to protect these children's rights here in Gaza. What CARE is doing as us activists here on the ground, we've been trying to secure as much access to water that we can. As we know, the limited supply of all these goods coming into Gaza has been detrimental to progress here, to any sort of humanitarian care. So we're trying to secure as much water as we can to give back to children and families in need, as well as providing what we call dignity kits. These kits provide hygienic material for women and young girls who have been displaced, over 500,000 displaced here in Gaza. So we need all the materials we can get. We're working as hard as we can to do what we can in the conflict. Of course, we can't intervene in other ways, but what we can do here is try and help the children as much as we can. We're here on the ground, but viewers at home, please, if you can, donate. Go to our website, care/international.com. You can find all the links there to donate so that we can start providing more access to water and more access to these dignity kits to women and girls here displaced in Gaza.